Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Tribal Open Demo session today. It's great to see some names from the previous Open Demo where we hosted Danielle Roop, who told a great story about how Tinkertime and Tribal built a great project for her and her team. And as an analyst, she was able to go into Tribal and extend it all by herself. Well, today, I'm super happy to host Leigh-Anne Nugent. Leigh-Anne is an old friend back from our mutual field service days. She's a partner of Tribal and most recently also a customer of Tribal. So thank you for joining for today's session and for being ready to share your story and your aha moments. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Nico. Great to see you. So I'm Leigh-Anne Nugent. I'm the founder of Tinkertime Labs. We are a Salesforce consulting practice focused on field service and strategic innovation. So field service is our bread and butter, and same with strategic innovation. And we've spent years in the trenches with organizations that dispatch technicians, schedule service appointments, manage complex field service operations across multiple regions and time zones. So what gets us excited about the intersection of implementation work and product thinking is it's not just about configuring orgs. We're always looking at the platform to ask, well, what are the gaps between what the product offers out of the box and what our customers actually need in the real world? And we're starting to keep a running list, and it's getting longer and longer. And so since we, got introduced to Tribal, I'm really excited because I found a way to start closing these gaps at a pace that wasn't possible before.
Such a good comment. And when we were preparing for this session, you mentioned about how you oftentimes helping customers to embrace Agentforce and some of the latest capabilities and complex products. And Salesforce Field Service is one example, has those different gaps that prevent them from leaping forward. And it will be really cool for you to show us the demo of what one of those gaps that you were able to resolve without, going into a very long development cycle, and something that is now repeatable for you. And once you show us the demo in your Salesforce org, tell us how you built it in Tribal and to see the whole thing for real.
Yeah, great. Okay, so before I get into that, I just want to talk about what we define as gaps, because we do see tech debt gaps. But there's also some platform and product gaps, and it doesn't mean that Salesforce is broken. And it also doesn't mean that Salesforce is a bug. What we are seeing, though, is that there are some platform features, just the way that certain fields are and the way that the product just is, that might not align with what our end customers need when either they're communicating with their customers or when we're trying to leverage Agentforce. The way that the text is being displayed in the message just might not be formatted properly. And I'm specifically talking about our favorite date time field. It is a perfect field. It changes and transforms depending on the context of the logged on user, which is amazing because then you look at the time and you're like, okay, so it's 9 o'clock and in my time zone as a user. And if another user logs in a different time zone, in the Pacific time zone, then it automatically translates to their time zone. So out of the box, that works perfectly. But where it doesn't work perfectly is when I need to send a text message to the end customer saying that your appointment is for 9 a.m. on Wednesday, July 29. Well, is it 9 a.m. Eastern time or is it 9 a.m. Pacific time? And the way that Salesforce merges that field, it merges in the UTC formatted field with a lot of zeros. And then it's like the Zulu time, and nobody really knows how to read this number. So for us, time zones in field service and date time fields, this is the bread and butter of the platform. And it's, I don't know, sometimes I call it the bane of my existence because we have to deal with time zones and daylight savings and so we're very familiar with date time fields. So let me just share my screen now. Okay. Let me just make sure I'm pressing the right button and sharing the right screen. So in Salesforce Field Service, we've got the earliest start time. Let me zoom in a little bit more so that we can see this better. We've got the scheduled start. Sometimes we have an arrival window and start, but I'm a user that's logged in to Eastern time. But this appointment was actually scheduled for in San Francisco, which would be Pacific time zone. So what we decided to do was build some custom fields that would determine what the local time zone is, and then format the text of the date, the day, the time, and the time zone so that this text field can now easily merge into an email or text message field. And it's a lot nicer than what we would see in a normal merging that date time field into those fields. So as you can see, because I'm logged in as because I'm logged in as Eastern, the scheduled start is, holy Leigh-Anne. It's the zoomed in thing. The scheduled start is set for noon Eastern time, but that actually translates to 9 o'clock Pacific time. So now we don't have any more confusion. So that was what we wanted to provide to our customers.
Okay, so definitely, if those on the call are less familiar with field service and time zone issues in North America, you could have a call center person in New York helping a customer in San Francisco, and you really want to make sure that when you speak to the customer, you speak the time zone the time that was scheduled. But if you are a dispatcher managing this technician, you want to know in your time zone when that person is actually physically right now out there in the field, familiar with that use case. So sounds like you resolved and built it by yourself using Tribal. Walk us through that project, Leigh-Anne.
Right. So the very first phase is the planning phase. I had a bit of a conversation with Claude first. So I consider Claude as my thought partner, help me create a PRD. What am I really thinking of here to just like get the idea out of my head into a good prompt and into a good solution design. But what I like about Tribal is that I put that prompt and the idea that I generated with Claude, and I leverage the ask feature capability so that we can, go back and forth and like talk to the analyst and see some of the ideas that we're looking at. And we've got some context here from the existing build that I might not have been able to glean from my Claude conversation. So I liked the idea of this. And then when we're beyond the plan and we're ready to get into requirements writing, then I can move into the act mode and it will create all the architecture diagrams for me. On this tab up here, it generated all of the requirements, the user story, the acceptance criteria. It gives me an ability to edit them all. And what I love is that the time that it took me to get the idea out to all of the requirements and all of the user acceptance criteria and the diagram. So if we look at the way that this data flow diagram is working here, we're able to see exactly how the data is moving, what is its calling, so that I can wrap my head around, is this the right solution? Are we over-engineering this or did we miss something? I can see it right away. And what we found in a lot of our implementations is that the journey to create the documents, well, first we would have a bunch of meetings to get an idea of what exactly the gaps are and what the needs are. Then we would spend a long time to create the solution design document, create all the user stories, create all the diagrams, ship that over to the customer, and the customer would be like, I don't know what this looks like. I was talking to a group yesterday about, if I put a requirement that says, draw me a zebra, you might get 5 different versions of a zebra depending on how each person visualizes a zebra, right? We were like joking about it. Like there's a painting of a famous Andy Warhol painting that's a multicolored zebra. There's there's Marty from Madagascar. You could get a drawing of Marty, and then you could get like a really beautiful watercolor one. And then you could just get like a stick and you could with like some black and white lines, and there's my drawing. So what we really wanted to get to was, let's flatten the understanding or that curve from idea to prototype so that our customers, as we're building that solution, can see it in addition to these diagrams. And building that proof of concept now alongside these documentations, like the artifacts, gets our customers seeing what the solution is going to be, and then they help shape the design of it before we even truly build it. Like, even though we're building it in a sandbox environment, we're not truly committed to it, but at least we're bringing the customer along the design journey.
Amazing. So we're looking at a diagram right now. So you were showing how you started creating requirements and Tribal designed them for you. You were
Yes.
able to reflect on that diagram as well to make sure that the flow and that it does make sense. What was the next step?
Yeah. So after we approved the requirements, hold on, I can't zoom for some reason. There we go. It then moved into the architecture phase where it would show all of the artifacts that it would build for us, including, the Apex classes, the test classes, any custom objects that we would need to create. In our case, we are going to use, or we did use, a custom metadata type. It included the custom metadata record for us, and it was able to build all of these solutions, including a permission set. And once I reviewed all these elements and signed off on it, I was then able to deploy it. And one thing that I wanted to mention here, when we first deployed it to a sandbox. But what I like about this approach versus my traditional IDE approach of pushing code, I get to do all the validation that we know and I guess love, hate when we deploy change sets, right? So we have to validate whether the change set has the right coverage, if there's anything that's going to break, or, like everything works perfectly. So Tribal does leverage the same validate step before deploy, and then we were able to push it. And once I was able to push it to sandbox with no issue, I then was able to push it to production also with no issue. So in my case, this is a demo org for me. So I did want to get it to production as soon as possible so that I can demo it to everybody. But yeah, that was the great thing that we discovered here.
Amazing. Now, Leigh-Anne, I have to ask you, you've been delving into AI for quite a while, and well before you got introduced into Tribal towards the end of last year. You talk about product gaps in complex solutions like Salesforce Field Service that prevent customers from adopting the latest and the greatest on one hand. And you talked about that gradual process from requirements gathering through architecture and the eventual build of your solution by Tribal. What makes it different for you from other AI tools that you've experienced? And I know you did experience quite a bit. What were the aha moments for you that locked you in on Tribal?
Yeah, I think the very first one, so there's two for me. The very first one is I can close the gaps faster, which means that our end customers, our Salesforce orgs, can start embracing that emerging technology faster. So for me, these product feature gaps that we've been kind of carrying around, we can start knocking them out. And, in this case, for example, if I started to use an agentic solution like Agentforce, for example, and started to give end customers a way to start scheduling, we were bumping into something with the get slots action or the sub agent, I guess. I'm not sure if it's an action or a sub agent. I think it's actually an action of the schedule appointment sub agent. Keep changing the names on me. Yes. So the format for this, it also came out in the Zulu time. So, and the way that, I'm like talking to Claude about, I'm like, why am I getting this output? It was saying that there was a limitation in Agentforce saying that I would have to pre-format the date time fields or the slots before it goes to Agentforce, which is weird because then I could go to Agentforce and I could say, why can you reformat this so that it's easier? And then it would say, oh, sure, here's a better format. So then it would respect the instructions that I gave it kind of as part of the solution. I'm like, why don't you just respect the instructions beforehand? But there's a gap there. So for me, I don't want embracing an agentic workforce means you're moving faster based off of what you have, your current state today. So if you've got all of these gaps, you're expediting these gaps at scale. So I'm going to be surfacing incorrect or inaccurate or information that doesn't make sense to customers faster. And I definitely don't want to do that. So for me, closing all the gaps faster means that we can start embracing emerging technology faster. So that was my kind of like table stakes. And then the bigger one was that because of these changes that I have, it's completely changing the way that I work as an implementation partner, because we can flatten the development curve from idea to production. And when I started, tinkering with vibe coding, I loved the immediate feedback and the response in the design. And I can have some of that. If I'm building a Lightning Web Component in Tribal, I wish I could show you something right now. No, some of these I'm still in planning mode here. But when I'm building a Lightning Web Component in Tribal, it does show me a preview while I'm building. So I loved that immediate feedback loop during the design process and prototyping process of all the vibe coding tools. But the challenge that I had was moving that solution into a production grade environment. So it would mean like hosting it on a stable database and then putting it in a hosting server, like Netlify or Vercel. And there was just a lot more involved. And, so yes, great. I can build all these things and it seems really cool, but I can't really get it into a production state. So, and even with some of these, like with Claude and with some of these IDE, like coworker style agents to help us code better and faster, like it can push to production, but I don't necessarily have the visibility into, well, what's it going to break? And the validate, piece isn't quite there. So for me, I'm able to build from idea to production in a trusted, safer type of space. So yeah, that was kind of my aha.
Amazing. And I think that was the main purpose for us in building that graduality, those artifacts that you showed from requirements through architecture and then building the components and being able to test them and the release notes that come afterwards. I was super happy to hear Danielle last week talking about how she was able to see the same project. It was a different one than what you showed, but she was able to see the project that we all did for her and then extended. And I think that's that level of transparency. You were talking about the confidence that it gave you in safely building very, very quickly. And I think that for business users, it's also about being able to collaborate and to quickly understand who did what and move forward with it, with all of these artifacts that are so difficult to maintain and keep up to date and to keep from the get-go altogether, just to have them as part of the production process for the analysts, for the admins, for the developers, for the and for the SI.
Yeah. So what we love, okay, as much as we love onboarding new customers, we also love ending our engagement. So like, I would love to have a customer for life. And we do say that our customers are for life, but our customers might not have an active engagement with us. And I think part of that is we set ourselves up and our customers up so that they don't have to rely on us all the time. Like, while we would love that, I actually feel like we did a good job when our clients are independent and empowered to take over whatever we designed and built for them, and they can own it, they can extend it, and they can continue to operate without us. And where we come in is more, that's where the whole strategic innovation side of our business comes in. They want to have something new, or they want to explore a new technology, or they want to try out a new business area or something like that. Like, we help them with the more complex, unique cases. But yeah, exactly. Like Danielle, the idea is she should be able to take what was built, review what was built, and troubleshoot, extend all of that on her own. And yeah, that's kind of where I feel confident. And I know that we did a good job is when our clients can operate confidently on their own. So Tribal gave them the Yes, there's some good questions here. So I'm just going to do this final thing, and I want to get to these questions. I want to give them the tool set to be able to run their org on their own. So we kind of page
Amazing.
away, and then they kind of take it the rest of the way.
Super important. And I think that the first question that popped out is very relevant to what you said about, letting your customers to continue on with what was done and to be more independent. From your point of view, Leigh-Anne, you and your team are using Tribal and you see your customers. Who is this platform for? Is it for platform owners, admins, developers, analysts? Who is it for as far as you can see it, Leigh-Anne?
Yeah. So we're still, okay, right now, I have a point of view, but something tells me it's going to shift. So as of today, right? So we are a shop of architects, and as architects, we're builders, admins. I'm not a developer. We have a couple of our two architects that are on the team have a developer mindset, but we're architects first. So we have built a lot of these solutions by hand before. So for us, this feels like a really great business analyst helper and Salesforce consultant helper. So it is building and writing and documenting all of those artifacts for us so that we can be, it feels like we can be more creative and we can think of more use cases and we can present solutions to clients faster. So we stay more focused on the engagement and the creative side of our roles or the functions of our roles. What I do find interesting is when our technical architects put their developer hat on, they're starting to really scrutinize the quality and, they really help improve the outputs that Tribal is creating. But for me I would call myself more of a strategic functional architect. It looks good to me. So I need to deploy it and I need to play with it as an admin to say, is this actually functioning as designed? And then I kind of go back and I tinker with it and I say, yeah, I kind of need to be in the org to really see, did it work? And then I kind of cross-reference. So for me, it takes a little bit longer because I got to double check my work. So from an architect's lens, this has been an incredible tool for us. From our customer side, so Kieran, thank you for asking that. Yes, we do disclose this to our customers, our clients. We believe that it works best when we bring our clients along the journey with us whenever we're implementing anything. That's part of that. We want our clients to be empowered when we leave the engagement or when the engagement becomes inactive, because we want them to feel comfortable with the tools that they use. So this was kind of a chicken and egg thing. Tribal was already in place with this customer. And what they recommended to this customer was, you need an architect team to help you come in to, yes, think about these use cases and think creatively and think about all the things that could possibly go wrong. And so we do work in collaboration with the client using their Tribal instance versus our Tribal instance connected to their org. So the kind of happy place is our clients are signed up with Tribal. We have a login to their Tribal instance and their Tribal instance is connected to their org. Okay. And then for our client, Danielle is a business analyst moving into a platform owner role. She is an admin as well. So she can go in, troubleshoot, she can make some changes. So I would call her a hybrid business analyst and Salesforce admin. And she was able to, again, take this project, review the project, understand what was built, what objects were used, what code base was used. And she would first she would ask, and they would, the Tribal, either the analyst or the architect would respond to her saying, well, this is how it's used. This is how we would build it. And then she would flip over to that mode. And then the builder agent would come in and build the extension of the solution that she had. From her perspective, I'll share that she was comfortable only deploying to the sandbox. And then she would use the change sets to move from sandbox to production. But that was part of her building trust with the tool. And I think, I don't know if she's ready to move to tribal to production yet, but there was one time that we had to do it and it worked out perfectly. There was like some weird thing. Anyway, we ended up doing it but yeah, go ahead.
A super important comment. And I think that, lots of people ask us, well, what's the difference between, Claude, other vibe coding tools and Tribal? And we all talk about acceleration. And I think that one super important aspect of that acceleration that Tribal enables is really that collaboration between the architect or the SI, the development team, the Salesforce team, and the business users of Salesforce in being able to log into Tribal to see all the artifacts from requirements through the architecture and the release notes and the components in between that were built. And then have much more transparency and collaboration on what is being built and the releases and even the rapid iterations between one another. So somebody is asking, can it recommend us about processes that should be implemented by AI? Leigh-Anne, have you used Tribal for recommendations on best way or processes to implement?
That's interesting. Maybe it's arrogant of me to say that I haven't because I think I know best. So
I'll tell you from my perspective.
That's actually a really good question. I'm going to try it, Hegi. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask it. What do you think I should build next? That's a good one.
I'll tell you from my much less experienced position, being to a large extent the revenue engineer of ourselves here at Tribal. I oftentimes ask Tribal to recommend the best practice approach to satisfy a certain need. And I do see our customers consulting with Tribal, and you showed that ask mode. Oftentimes while creating something, pausing for a moment, switching to ask and contemplating what would be the better way. What happens if I use a flow instead of a trigger? What will be the downside of creating a custom object? Is there a standard one that could be used? And so those recommendations do happen. Tribal does have best practices built into it, and it is drawing from the latest APIs in its connectivity to Salesforce, which is well beyond MCP. So I do see our users consulting, but Leigh-Anne, you are an architect, so you are being asked, you are the best practices person. And yes, it does know how to create flows, APACs, LWCs. So yes.
Yeah. And it is actually interesting. So yes, it does create flows. And a few months ago, we had a bit of a philosophical debate around what would be better, flows or LWC. And one of the big arguments for staying with flow was, admins tend to know flows and you tend to be a developer who would need to know LWCs in order to modify it or to own it. But now with Tribal, we're seeing how well it is taking over. So yeah, like Danielle, for example, she modified that Lightning Web component herself using Tribal. So it's a lot easier now to maintain. Can you show us? I mean, I think we're nearing our time, but yeah.
Yeah, we're almost at time.
We can dig into some of those demos another time, Amir.
Absolutely. I think it is time to come to summary. And for everybody who participated and joined this open demo, I hope it was valuable. And our next session will be in 2 weeks' time, where we'll show another live story. If you are curious about Tribal and if you want to try it out, please connect with me right after the webinar. We'll be happy to do a live demo and really dive into what matters most to you. Leigh-Anne, thank you so much for joining this session and for sharing your story. It was such a different perspective than what we heard 2 weeks ago, and yet such a valuable one. We really appreciate your participation, and thank you for being both a partner, a customer, and such a good friend for so many years. So best of success to you, and thank you for participating, and thank you everyone else who joined the session. We hope you found that time well spent.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Thanks for the questions.
Bye-bye. Take care.